Hello everyone, I'm Diane Woodworth and I'm a retired school superintendent and I am part of the Wagon Construction Business Development team. And so welcome today to the K-12 podcast. And I'm here today with Tonya Weaver, who is the superintendent here at Garret-Keyser-Butler. And we're going to be discussing a little bit and sharing some ideas back and forth about teacher and staff shortages and maybe some possible strategies to overcome these issues. So Tonya, you've been a superintendent for 8 years?
Superintendent for 8 years.
Okay. And tell me, just remind me about the rest of your career. You were an elementary teacher, I think.
I was. So I started my career 34 years ago. Nice. And I started as an elementary teacher and was an elementary principal, assistant principal, literacy coach. Loved all of my time at the elementary for sure. And then I moved to a position called the Director of Administration and Innovation. So I really had the opportunity to just explore new ideas and programs and approaches that we wanted to use at GKB for a time period, which was awesome. But then shortly after that, I became the superintendent here. So love to be a Garret Railroader and to be here for 34 years. I'm really fortunate.
I love the things you did, just a little side note, when you were the innovative coordinator of innovation, whatever that exact title was, but you did so many really cool things for kids. I've always admired you. So thanks for taking time out today.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to be here with you. So
all right, well, I think everybody's heard about the teacher shortage. So how do you think, what is your experience here at Garret or maybe with your colleagues just about this shortage?
Yeah. So I think for sure, we know we're seeing a gap in all areas of education and teachers, yes, for sure. But then I think across all areas, it takes a village to really educate and support our children. And so we are definitely seeing it in the area of teachers, but also with bus drivers. And, they work really hard to get our kids here safely every day, but there is a bus driver shortage. Same thing with when we look at custodial or maintenance. It's difficult to fill all of those positions. So I think that a lot of times we hear about the teacher shortage, but really it's across the board, right? In education, for sure.
Yeah, it is. And do you hear this from your colleagues as well?
I do. When, anytime we're at meetings, it's like, okay, what positions do you have posted? How can we help each other? Are there people that you're looking for? And it really is a constant state of flux. It seems like it's been a little bit different. More recently, that even mid-year, there's more openings and things like that happening. So when I started a long time ago, 34 years ago, it was that you had maybe openings in over the summer, but then once those positions were filled, you didn't really have openings, and that has completely changed. We're really seeing that sometimes mid-year, we have several different kind of openings that pop up with people either leaving education completely or, making just some other changes in their family that have caused them to have to leave. So
I think that's been a culture change in education because,
I think so.
I was in the business, as long as you and before you. And once you, as a teacher, if you signed a contract, you stayed for the whole year. But you would never consider leaving anytime other than at the end of the school year. And now there's been that culture shift. People seem to move around whenever.
I think so, for sure. So that's a challenge because then it also is very disruptive, in the school environment for the children and the classes and that kind of thing. So.
And when there's an opening, if somebody from another district fills the opening, then now that district has an opening and just that whole domino effect.
Yeah, and it's really, that is hard and it's a challenge because I don't ever, in the middle of the year, want to have a teacher come from a different school just because I know the position then we're putting that school in. So that's really hard.
It is really hard. Well, Tonya, how do you think we got here? What are some of the circumstances that have led to this predicament that we're in?
Yeah, I think that is a multifaceted kind of situation because there are so many different kinds of things. One thing that I for sure is, we are seeing teachers that are more and more demands are constantly placed on our teachers. And so I think there is a time that teachers do get burnt out. And, you hear about compassion fatigue. That's a real thing. And that can really wear on an individual. So I think that is one piece. I also think that just really with the political landscape a little bit, I think there's some extra demands that are on schools that cause a little bit of aches and pains and can cause some discomfort. The other piece, I think, is just culturally in society, there's some big division, right? And so I don't think that always being a teacher or going into education is something that is always attractive because of that discourse that's happening and some of the negativity and things that we're facing, for sure.
Yeah, a little along that line, we're hearing from the colleges of education in the state, and I've seen this nationally too, but that the numbers of students, when they're, looking at their major in college, they are not picking education. Like the schools of education are smaller. They've shrunk down. They have lost some of their professors because they don't have the student numbers anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely the case. I will say that the last year or so, we maybe have had more people starting to apply for the positions. And so that has been a really pleasant surprise.
Yes.
I think there was a 2-3 year period that really we were very limited on the people that were applying for different positions. And we're finally, maybe, I'm hopeful that we're on an uptick.
I hope so too.
More. Yeah.
I hope so too. And are you hearing that the colleges of education in the state are seeing higher numbers in their programs?
I know there's one particular local university I just talked to yesterday that did have the highest enrollment that they had ever had this year as freshmen. So I guess I keep my fingers crossed that that might be something positive. But I do think we got to this situation just because of those things that we talked about. And sometimes I think that there might be political or cultural legislative things that happen that might be unintended consequences, but do put more demands on our educators.
To switch gears a little bit, how would you say this issue of shortages is affecting students and families?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically with teachers, I think that our families, they do feel a little bit of uneasiness that maybe their child's classroom is being disruptive, or there might not be as many programs or opportunities that some schools are able to offer. I know that we had a particular position that was really difficult to fill. And so we went for several months without having that, which did impact the children's programming. And it was tied to also a co-curricular, extracurricular activity. And so that was really limited as well. And so I think that causes parent concern. You want children to be able to follow their interests and their passions and be engaged in school, doing all the things that they love and are interested in. And sometimes that can be impacted, especially with those difficult to fill positions. Yeah. But in addition, besides the teacher shortage, I mean, we talked at the beginning just about all of the others. So bus driver shortages, I know many of my colleagues have had to really adjust routes and change things. And so overall, that small change impacts then the overall student experience and their day.
I know in my area, I've heard parents talk about that. Like the bus is going to be an hour late. They get this message from the school district on their messaging system, right? That this bus will have to do double routes today because of the driver shortage. And so the bus is going to be an hour late, and so the students are going to get to school a half hour late, or whatever that turns out to be. And that's very disruptive to the parent then, because they have to adjust their work schedule or whatever plans, because they got the notice at 6 a.m.
Right, exactly.
But that's when the school district found out too, right?
Yeah.
So it's
does.
difficult.
It's kind of
difficult.
It's difficult, and there's definitely a ripple effect on the student's day.
Yeah.
Which is not what any of us want.
No.
So.
And then the subs, right? There's a lot of substitutes. Like that situation you were alluding to where you had a short or a vacancy for a while and couldn't fill it. So were you lucky enough to find one sub to fill the whole time frame, a couple months?
We did. So
Okay.
we were happy that we had one
Yes.
person to do that. But the
Yes.
sub shortage is, again, a huge issue that we're all facing. And so as our teachers are needing to, take off a day, or they're ill, or their child's ill or something, it is really difficult to find subs to come in. So, we've tried to be creative in offering the other teachers an opportunity that they can, during their prep time and then be compensated for that, right? Like, we would never want to do that and not compensate those educators for taking their time to help out a colleague, but it does put a strain then on everybody else.
Right, it sure does.
And so we don't want our elementary students, it seems like elementary sometimes is harder to find subs
I see.
for us. I don't know if that was your experience previously.
No, I felt maybe in my situation it was harder for the secondary. Like
Really?
subs were afraid of the big kids, but they were
Yeah.
okay about subbing for the little kids, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe with the progression of technology and that the students now in the secondary, a lot of their content is already, in our learning management system. And so the kids can just kind of continue and move on.
That's
and
true.
so
Yeah.
in the elementary, that's just not the case. I mean, it really is there's a schedule and
Yes.
times, and they're all over the
Yes.
place. And so that is what we have found, which then again causes a disruption to the students' day because schedules are altered and interventions are changed and adjusted and that kind of thing. So
Well, maybe it's because elementary, like the subs have to teach all the subjects, right? And some people, for example, hate math. Like I am not going to go into like a fourth grade classroom because I don't want to do that math. Right? And at the secondary level, they can choose, like, I'll only sub for English, social studies or whatever. I don't know if that's a factor
I
or
know
not.
that might be actually.
Yeah. I just know I hear parents, like, casually, like, if you're out for dinner with friends, how's school going for your kids? And somebody might mention, well, so-and-so's had a sub all week. And then the sub was sick, and so then there was a sub for the sub. It causes parents to not feel confident in the instruction that's happening because the sub may or may not really know the content. So all those things are
I agree. I
not
think
desirable.
Yeah, it's not desirable. And again, it comes back to that disruption
Yeah.
for the student, and that is not what we want. So
Yeah. Well, so okay, we've kind of talked about the problem. Now, what ideas and strategies do you think are available for school districts to work at this?
Right.
What should we do?
There's so one thing that we didn't talk about that I think sometimes is often talked about, right, is compensation.
Yeah, right.
For sure,
Absolutely.
that often comes up, and so thinking about how to, structure things so that we can compensate our educators better, and so that comes at having the funds to do that. And if districts that are seeing declining enrollment in some of our rural areas, then that is even more difficult to have those funds to compensate well. But I think, making sure that, and as education folks, that we are really promoting what a great career it is, and then trying to make sure that we compensate as well so that we can really set people up to want to become educators. But I think compensation maybe is one piece. I think looking at just across the board, some of the things that we're doing here at Garret.
Give us some examples.
We have a health clinic that is we have a partner with one of our local hospitals. And so that sounds like a small thing, but honestly, our teachers are so appreciative of having that opportunity to be like right in the building. If they're ill, if their child's ill, they can go see a physician. They can have their labs drawn and taken care of there. They can get medication that we have on hand for them. So, a health clinic, I think it's an important piece. It also addresses that sub issue we talked about because those teachers then don't have to leave the building to go get an appointment for their child and that kind of thing and have a sub, and they can really just walk down the hallway and see a physician, get taken care of what they need to, and be back in the classroom.
And often they can do that during their planning period or sometime that they don't have to be gone that way. Or get a sub for the day.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
wonderful.
So
that's good.
that is one thing that I think is like a little benefit,
Yes,
to
for
staff. We think a lot about supporting the work-life balance.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And I think that is super important. I think other pieces is having some other, like we have a full wellness program that is super supportive and fun and engaging, and we have wellness classes that are here. So just some different benefits.
Does a lot of your staff participate in those wellness activities?
They do.
Yeah.
And we have some really great incentives built in. We also have found, I mean, taking care of our teachers as a whole. And so thinking about that wellness piece.
Yeah.
Certainly mental health and that support, just having someone to talk to. So we have staff counseling opportunities that are actually like right here on campus.
That's great.
So that a teacher over their lunch or during their prep time could go down and have someone to talk to. And it's all, 100% confidential. But it just, anything that we can do to help support that. That whole teacher and the whole staff member, actually, anybody can access that. So
that's good. Now, was it difficult financially to set that up? Because some districts might not have the funds to set up a wellness program, or a clinic, or how was that financially for your district?
So we were able to capitalize on through our insurance and our insurance trust. Being able to have wellness funds come back to the district. And so, I mean, you think about that, it ultimately benefits,
Absolutely.
right? Those staff members that are healthier and are participating in those things aren't costing our insurance quite as much. And so ways to do that. And then we have really sought out grant funding to support like our counseling that happens here and supporting that whole teacher. So.
And that's wonderful. And I'm kind of aware that, there's been post-COVID, there were funds available to help with some of those mental health things and counseling, because I think everybody was hearing that nationally this was kind of a crisis, right? Mental health for students, families, everybody, right?
Everybody.
So were you able to harness any of those COVID funds?
So we did not, because there was a great state grant that was called Project Aware that we participated in, and so it was a 5-year commitment. And then during this 5 years, we've been really looking at like how are we going to sustain this? Because
that's where I was going, because I'm aware that people were able to use some of those funds, to get things started. But then how is this sustainable for districts? I am concerned about that.
I am concerned equally. But I think, that's where our staff has really been committed to looking at outside grants and agencies that can help support that. And we have had some great partnerships. So we have great partners in DeKalb County who are able to help us with that and try to support that both financially, but also with their time and their people.
That's wonderful. Yeah, collaboration is wonderful if you can pull that off. Another strategy I've heard about, do you know anybody who's doing this, is providing daycare on campuses for teachers and other staff so that they can bring their kids with them to work?
So I'm so glad you asked about that, because we are so excited that we will in August be opening our employee child care center. So
that's great.
We again wrote a grant and received funds to get that started and get it off the ground. So that was one of the things that was super concerning to me, is hearing we've had amazing teachers the last few years that have left the profession because they don't have affordable or reliable child care. And so because of that, they've had to make that choice to stay home. And so that takes a great, amazing teacher out of our school district that our students and our children could benefit from. So we are opening that up, and it will be an employee-only child care center. And we're going to start that way because of the grant funding that we were able to do. And so then we'll see if we need to open it up depending on the number of our staff that can take advantage of that. But again, that's one of those pieces. If there's something that we can do to support our staff and make their life easier, then let's figure out how to do that. And so
that is wonderful. I think that is a great program for teachers and other staff if they can use that. Well, and it will be in the building, like you had a classroom available that you could
So we have a building that is right here on campus. So it's a separate building, but it will allow for an infant area, a toddler classroom, and then we'll also have our preschool classrooms that will be there. So it will be, all encompassing from birth to 5. So
Wow.
I know we have some new moms that will be going here on maternity leave any day, and they're
Yep.
excited to know that they
Yes.
will be able to come back and bring their baby with them to work. And then,
Right.
just close proximity and
dependable. Like you
yes.
don't have to worry about if the babysitter's sick. What am I
Right,
going to do? I mean, that's fantastic.
so we are
Good.
excited about that.
Yeah. Good for
Yeah.
you. No, that's wonderful. Well, Tonya, it sounds like you have a lot of great strategies in place or coming online to help work at this shortage.
We hope so. And I think all school districts right across Indiana, you know that we work with so many of our
Yes.
colleagues who just want to
Right.
provide
Right.
the best educational environment for students, but also to support all
That's
of the
right.
staff members who work so hard
Right.
every day. And so when we can find those ways that we can support them, then
Right.
we are going to all jump on board to do that. So.
Right. Well, that's probably the idea of this podcast is hopefully other people will listen to this and also maybe contact you if that's okay because some of the things
Absolutely.
you're doing or just have that conversation, among colleagues, like the ideas that can percolate up.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah.
One other thing I was thinking about in preparation for this is, I've done some reading that when people change their employment, sometimes it's because they actually don't like their boss or the leadership of their supervisors, right? And that they don't feel like they have a voice. So have you given any thought to ways that you can have I'll use teachers in this case, have a voice in the school, or do you have mechanisms for that, do you think?
So number one, I think our administrators are amazing in working side by side with our teachers and really forming that collaborative bond. But all of those kind of things through PLCs that we do,
Right.
and just additional meetings that we have or sessions we have, for example, with our new teachers, because, we've been talking about
Right.
new teachers and the teacher shortage. I meet with all of our new teachers. We have a couple days of New Teacher Academy before school starts, which can be super overwhelming.
Right.
But then every month I meet with them on our late start day. And so that way we begin that relationship, but
Yes.
also that opportunity to know that your voice is important. And here you have a lot of people who really care about your thoughts and ideas and ways to enhance the school. And so whether that is committing, the idea to them early,
Right.
that we are here to
Right.
mentor and support you, but
Yes,
we're also
yes.
here to have you help us grow. And so I think that happens through, their Ames Teams meetings and those early Friday meetings when they get to collaborate and work closely with their partners. So
Oh, that is fantastic because I think that's very important too. So it's like you said earlier, it's a multifaceted problem, right?
It is.
With multifaceted strategies.
Yes,
I think you've
absolutely.
covered like all of them.
Well, I think we definitely have a long
think-
way to go, and I can't wait though to hear,
yeah.
from other colleagues that maybe get to
Right.
watch this, but
Right.
then they can share ideas that they're using for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited about the wonderful leadership you've shown here at Garret. I'm sure they're going to miss you greatly. She's retiring, guys. And so June 30, is that your last day?
June 30 is
Yeah.
my last day.
You've done so many really exciting things here for the students and families.
you.
So thank you for your contribution to
Oh my goodness.
public education, Tonya. It's been a complete treat to know you and work with you over the
thank
years.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, today. And we'll see you for the next episode in a few months of K-12 Corner.